Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de well, some habits that somehow I formed before the worldwide pandemic set in that really helped me to deal with this whole last year and a half or so. Heck, this thing might go on for longer, so who knows how many months it'll be before the end of the humanity. Just kidding, I think we'll all be fine, especially with these 3 tips that I'm going to give you. Alright? XenPuck here. Another day, another stream of consciousness where I really just ruminate on how easy life can be. Today's topic is simple, right? I somehow lucked into developing a few habits that I think has served me well in regular daily life. But these specific ones look certifiably psychic on my part when I compare them against the lens of the pandemic that we all had to and are still suffering through, right? Now, I'm not saying that everybody needs to do the same thing as me, especially on these rather mundane or maybe not so mundane tasks or habits, but I can tell you all these take very little effort to get started on, and the return on investment are absolutely tremendous in the long run, or even the short run, right? If you disagree, sure, whatever, do you, right? Comment below and tell me what you're using your time on instead. Otherwise, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. All right, I'm done with the commercial spiel. On with the list. Number 1, learn how to cook. Okay, I get it. Some of my friends, at least, already love to cook, but I have only gotten into it after my early retirement, right? My excuse is simple. Just when I'm working 10, 11 hours a day, it's too much trouble to go home and, make your own food, right? My wifey can testify that when she first met me, I didn't even know how to turn on the oven. Okay. To be fair, I am Chinese, and we normally only use the oven to store pots and pans. I mean, it is a very secure location for pots and pans, but we really don't know what else to do with it. It's the reality, okay? But since I met my wifey, I have gotten very comfortable with the oven. I mean, by no means expert level, as in I don't bake anything, but roasting stuff, my God, that is super easy. I mean, my only problem with roasting is that it's not particularly quick. But hey, I've early retired, so I've got all the working hours to play with, as well as the usual, I guess, off hours. So yeah, it's pretty easy to experiment and be a cook when I have a lot of time on my hands, right? Someday I'll graduate to being a chef, but right now, following recipes and making minor adjustments as a cook is totally okay with me. Habit number 2, I cut my own hair. Is that a surprise? So this habit I think is more for dudes than for ladies, as I'm not a lady, so I can't honestly speak to what ladies have to suffer through when they sit in that chair, with that oven-looking space helmet thing over their heads. I mean, my wifey's last hair appointment apparently took almost like an entire working day worth of hours. I didn't even bother asking for more details because that just seems like too much of a stretch of imagination on my part, okay? But hey, I am a dude and I actually used to have longish hair, right, for the last almost 10 years. Not anymore, but certainly going into my early retirement and before we moved to Texas, I wasn't really going for a buzzy cut, right? And still, for some reason, maybe because I grew up in a very immigrant-heavy neighborhood as a kid, it always seemed absurd to me that I would pay anyone over like $20 for a haircut. Like, yeah, no, absolutely not. I'm a dude, hair should be easy, right? Obviously, at this point, I've learned that a reasonable haircut, is not very easy, and my wifey specifically has decreed that I must go get a reasonable, real haircut for our soon upcoming wedding reception. That's fair. But you know what I can do to mitigate this problem, and what I have been doing since I left the corporate gig? Well, I cut my own hair, or rather maintain my own hair, okay? So here's what I do. I just go get that real haircut maybe once or twice a year. And somewhere in between my real haircuts, all the 10 months in between appointments, what I can do is just maintain my relatively easy, no fuzz buzz cut on the side and the back of my head, okay? Practice makes perfect. Also, an additional mirror, I hold it against the other mirror in your bathroom. It's easy. Even my wifey is finally starting to admit that my maintenance level of haircutting is, not great or professional, but passable, right? At least, and that's good enough for me. After all, I have a hot lady at this point, so what else do I need vanity for? Okay. Point number 3, rather habit number 3, okay? I don't make rash decisions on investments, right? Equity investments, simple one. Real estate investments, same thing. Just regular old traditional investments, right? This one's applicable really at any point, but it is more kind of explicit since the pandemic has started, right? And it's still applicable right now, even though the pandemic's on the wane, right? Honestly, it just keeps being relevant no matter what year it's been since I've left, right? I can give you 2 examples in a row. Remember spring 2020? My God, market dropped like a brick. I think I lost like a couple of hundreds of thousands of dollars within a month, right? My own parents were like, how are you holding up? Are you rethinking the whole retire early bit yet? What are you doing about the situation in the broader macroeconomic sphere? And I was like, I'm holding out fine. And my reaction is a big fat pile of nothing, okay? Because I didn't want to lock in my paper losses. And guess what happened? 6 months, a year later, I and the rest of the market is charging on ahead. And the financial news couldn't even make sense of it. They're like, how is it that, the rich are getting richer? I think I'm well-to-do. I don't call myself a rich person or whatever, really. At the end of the day, I made a lot more money, right? And yet, we're rolling into the second example right now. Same pandemic, a year and some months later, a year and a quarter or so. I wake up and skip the papers, and lo and behold, what are the headlines? Greatest single-day drop on the Dow of the last decade. Will everything crash? It's the same kind of headlines yet again. Guess what I'm gonna do? Nothing! Literally absolutely nothing, because financial news sources are worth their weight in whatever is the opposite of gold. So I guess they're worth their weight in air? Okay? So when I'm talking to you guys who ideally have some sort of financial sense, like, what I want you guys to act like? Rick Grimes at the beginning of the Walking Dead TV show. Okay, you know what he was doing at the beginning of that show? Sleeping through the entire zombie apocalypse, okay? That's what you should be doing. Sleeping through the hoopla, rather than reacting to these so-called news at all, okay? I can't put it more seriously than that. Financial news is 99% clickbait and pretty much worthless, right? It literally is only relevant, this kind of crash and burn scenario, it's only relevant if you are in that month ready to retire yourself. Because other than that specific type of sequence of risk case, any downturn within the span of a year or a month or a day or two means absolutely nothing. You gotta just stick with your long-term financial plan, right? Reacting to markets is a sure way to great loss. And you becoming a statistic as to why somehow the stock market over time always go up. And yet, individual investors always lose, right? They don't actually hit the market average even. How the heck can those 2 facts both be true? It's because most people are dumb, and cannot be trusted to handle their own money, right? In terms of investments, right? Of course, if you just leave it in savings, it's even worse. But we're talking about Americans here. Most Americans can't even save to save their own butts, right? I hope that's not you, right? Anyway, that's all I've got for now. Would love to hear your thoughts. Investments or just good habits, or like I said, how do you spend your time, right? Because if you're not spending your time developing good habits, I assume then you're spending your time developing bad ones, right? And that's fine too. Just saying. Take my advice or not, it's all up to you. Just saying. I get to do this for a living, so I'm good. Are you? Cheers.